welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Dunk's Movie Corner. For whatever episode this is, I think it might be 14, it might be 10, I have no idea, it all blurs together. If you're new, again, this is where I talk about what I watched this week in movies, in TV, in specials, whatever it may be, albeit most of it is in film. And it's what my thoughts are on them, if I like them, if I didn't like them. If you're not new, welcome back. If you haven't found me yet on social media, it's out there. It's on Instagram at Dunk's Movie Corner Pod. It's also on Spotify. Obviously, that's probably where you're listening to this if you are listening. And I figure I'm not gonna say a whole lot in the beginning here because, well, I watched more than like 2 or 3 movies this week. I watched a ton, and I have lots to talk about. So with that, let's get into it. I started this week rewatching, as part of my other podcast with my brother, the Movie Bros podcast, which, if you don't know about that, that's where we pick one movie. Each week we watch it and we discuss and ramble and banter about it. So we started this week with Rango from 2011, the Johnny Depp animated chameleon lizard Western hodgepodge movie. I had not seen it in quite some time. I feel like I used to not really enjoy it, and rewatching it, much better. The villains were villainous. The protagonist was protagoning, if that's a word, whatever. Yeah, the soundtrack was fun. The animation was great for, I mean, considering the time, and it was the main thing for me, at least, was it was the right amount of Johnny Depp. He wasn't way over the top. He wasn't doing his whole, I don't know, just weird dude stuff. It was the right amount of reined in, at least for me personally. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I would recommend seeing it. And on my letterbox, which, if you don't know what letterbox is, it's like a film social media reviewing movies. It's great. Highly recommend using it. On my letterbox, which is Dunkin' 8 Donuts, the number 8, I said much better than I remember, even if the story is mostly cut and dry, which it is. It's kind of very straightforward, which I'm fine with. You know who the villain is in the first 5 minutes. The animation's great. Johnny Depp is just the right amount of Depp. Also, I refuse to believe this was a kid's movie, which, yeah, if you watch this, I would not take a little kid to this. I would probably take an older kid to this and they'd be okay. Not that there was any like gore or blood or language, but it was kind of intense and kind of adult. Um, yeah, just something that I wrote in my, like, I usually keep like a Word doc up when I'm watching movies specifically for a podcast where I just put my like total random bits of thoughts into. And there were several points where I was like, oh, if I was a kid, I would be scared, like legitimately scared from this. Um, so just food for thought if you have a little kid and you're watching this. From there, I went forward in time a couple years to 2014 and watched Need for Speed. So backstory with this, I had several of the video games growing up, and the video games are lots of fun, especially for like a 13, 14-year-old boy who likes cars and like crazy stunts and all. Like, it was very fun. The movie, boy, the writing is not good. The car chases are great, and like the actual effects. And I looked into stuff, and apparently a lot of it is done. Like, they really did a lot of this, which is really cool. It's not a lot of CGI. Aaron Paul as the main guy. I don't. Okay, if you watch the trailer for this, the trailer is actually really cool. Like, there's this cool monologue that he has over top of it that makes him sound super badass, and his voice, I think, is great. He's this like awkward little dude. That's just who he is, like a statuette wise. The only thing that I couldn't not notice is he had, and this is no fault in his own. There's nothing he can do to control this. Aaron Paul has a very large forehead, and I couldn't not just look at that. There are parts where like he's hunched over a steering wheel, like very in his emotions, and his whole head is underneath, except for this massive forehead poking out the top. Either way, there were parts that were fun. There's a lot of it that, oh man, I probably could have skipped ahead at. I gave it 2 out of 5, which I think might have been a little generous. Either way, The bad guy, which was Dominic Cooper. I like him. I feel like he hasn't done that many things. I know he did that newer AMC show, Preacher, that's supposed to be pretty good. Haven't checked that out. On Letterboxd, I said cars go vroom vroom. Meanwhile, Aaron Paul's forehead, and I made like this little like using dashes and underlines to make it look like there's a very large foreheaded person. Either way, that's what I watched second this week. From there, I went to The Quick and the Dead. So I jumped back in time about 20 years to 1995. This is Sam Raimi, and you probably know him from tons of different horror movies, but he also is very famously known for doing Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3, the ones with Tobey Maguire, which I grew up with, and I really loved those because they are before all the MCU, like everything has to be jokes. I don't know. It's just that's a whole separate topic. But The Quick and the Dead is his total offshoot from what he normally does. It's a Western. The cast is, of course, stacked. It's Sharon Stone, who I don't normally, maybe I just haven't seen much of her in anything, but she was a babe in this. Like, there's this, oh my goodness. Like, I'm not usually into her or that type of woman, but she was killing it. Anyway, Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman is the bad guy who runs this town. I don't know. I always find it hard to take him seriously. I think he's a great actor, but he doesn't seem very menacing. I don't really know how else to say it. Russell Crowe is very young. He's probably, looks like he's like maybe early 30s. He's great in this. Leonardo DiCaprio is great in this, and he's like, I'm going to guess he's 14. And he plays like a 14-year-old. Anyway, there's tons of people in this. Those are like the main group. The amount of like quick little zoom ins on different people's faces about the many like standoffs. I feel like Sam Raimi saw in a couple westerns like, oh, that's the classic western thing to do. I'm gonna do 1,000 of them in my one movie. I don't know. It was fun. Very, very. I felt it. It felt very slick. Like there wasn't a whole lot of fat to it. It was very like, this is what's happening. It was very simple, and sometimes simple is better, I find. Either way, that was 4 out of 5 stars for me. And again, Letterboxd, I said, lots of fun, very Sam Raimi, very good cast, slick stuff. And I feel like I'm just flying through these, but that's okay. Again, I'm not aiming for these episodes to be crazy long. Obviously, if I get off on a tangent, I get off on a tangent, but this is really supposed to be just a quick update from week to week. From there, I went forward in time a little bit to 2002. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but for the Movie Bros podcast, we watched Treasure Planet. No, not Treasure Island or anything like that. This is the animated, kind of, I feel like forgotten. Like it's super good. Okay, maybe not super good, but it is good. Where it's like pirates in space, and it's the time where animated films, there's a couple of them that I can think of, mesh the 2D and the 3D together. And I actually, for generally those kind of things, I find really work for me. Between this, Titan AE, I feel like there's one more. I feel like there's 3 big ones that do this. Maybe it was Atlantis, The Lost Empire. I think that's the other one. Either way, that kind of style of art I really, really enjoy. There were so many parts of this that I feel like if you pause it, you could definitely put this in a frame and put this on your wall. I mean, it looks that good. It looks that cool kind of thing. I did not realize that the main character was Joseph Gordon-Levitt when he's really, really young. And I sort of hear, once Hayden told me, my brother Hayden told me that, I could sort of hear it, but not really. Brian Murray, Emma Thompson, Martin Short. There's a couple people that stick out, but a lot of this, the pacing I found was just a little odd. Like, it's not a long movie. It doesn't really feel like it drags, but it took forever. Like the actual like culmination of everything happening, where they like make it to quote unquote the treasure planet. It's in the last like 20 minutes. Like a good portion of this is just them either getting there or like I don't know. I feel like there was both fluff and not fluff. It's kind of hard to explain my thoughts on that. Either way, I had a good time watching that. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Again, pretty fun, but not like a fantastic movie. Uh, what's his name? The main guy, Jim, the kid. Again, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. His hair, like the short sides, the long top, outfit, and everything. I was like, oh, this might be my next Halloween fit, and it would be deep cuts, and not a lot of people would know it, but like I kind of dig it. If I could find a little like gold orb that looks like the map to Treasure Planet, I think I might do it. No one else would get it, and I feel like I'd probably have to explain it multiple times to people, but I don't really give a shit. So yeah, that might be my move for Halloween this year, because that's only, gosh, that's only like a month and a half away, and I don't really have a plan yet. And there's usually a couple different little gatherings I go to, so I figure I should have something going on. Either way, from there I jumped quite a bit ahead, 16 years ahead to 2018, and Hayden and I watched The Meg. So if you're thinking, oh man, you're watching all these movies with your brother, I thought you were only watching one movie a week. Yes, usually we are doing that. There's a couple weeks going forward where either I'm out of town, he's out of town, whatever, so we are trying to bundle watch and record some of these. And that way we can still release them on schedule, but I don't know, I feel like that's not new for any kind of podcast or any kind of show or anything. Either way, so we watched a bunch of movies all in a row. We'll probably record one or two in a row, and that way we can post when each other are out of town. So with that in mind, we watched 4 movies in one day. So this is movie number 2, The Meg, starring Jason Statham, Rainn Wilson. God, what's the horrible haired where they really pushed her being kind of a like badass lesbian chick? God, what's her, Ruby Rose? If you look at her hair, Google Ruby Rose The Meg, her hair is one of the worst things I have ever seen, maybe in any movie ever. Just a thought. Hayden likes this movie. I don't know why. It's not good. And it's also not good in the way that, like, you know how bad movies can be so bad that they're good or like fun or enjoyable to watch? This was not one of them. The shark constantly was in different scenes, different sizes. Uh, and this is just me personally because my background is in scuba diving and scuba instruction. All the different things in and around the water that would happen, I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's not real. They would have been dead in 10 seconds. Oh, he should be bleeding out of his ears. Like his eardrum would have ruptured. Oh, they should have had the bends 7 different times in this movie. There's so many of those kinds of things that I picked up on. Maybe Hayden didn't, but that's just, it's ingrained in my brain. There's so many this stuff that comes up that I can't not critique. And there's never but it's supposed to be sort of scary. I don't know, because obviously big shark. Never the shark never really seemed scary. Like it was always this like not comical, but not scary entity that just like you can clearly tell this person's about to get eaten. Okay, they get eaten. Cool. Yeah, just the cinematography was not interesting at any point. The music, I don't even know if there was music. It was that like there's no part of this that was good. And they made 2 of them, which is shocking. And this somehow has a 2.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I gave it 1.5, and I feel like I was still being generous. I don't know what people are thinking, folks, but I am not one of those people. And I said on my Letterboxd, bad, but not bad in a good way. And I think I definitely stand behind that statement. Hopefully that makes sense. Well, if it doesn't, oh well. From there, folks, I jumped backwards a year. I know I'm kind of hopscopping around a little bit. Hayden and I watched 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. This won Best Leading Actress, I believe, for Frances McDormand. I only knew that this was a heavy watch, and I had no interest really in watching a heavy watch like this. So I've always put it off. But I don't know. I said, screw it, let's watch it. This had surprisingly a lot of dark comedy, which worked really well to kind of offset the serious stuff. It wasn't just people sitting around and talking. There was some physical, not action, but things actually happened to keep your attention. And it was a surprisingly more diverse cast than I originally thought. I obviously Frances McDormand, uh, Woody Harrelson plays the police chief that she kind of butts heads with. Sam Rockwell is like a deputy police officer who is, I think he's slow-witted, but also very racist. What's her name? Mac's mom, Mac from Always Sunny. His mom is Sam Rockwell's mom in this. She just plays that same kind of. If you saw her, you knew exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of character. Peter Dinklage just randomly appears in this, and he's like a side character, and I had no idea he was in this. Samara Weaving. If you recognize the name, if you saw that Ready or Not movie that came out a couple years ago, where she's the main protagonist, she's like a very small side character in this, just randomly appears. The Frances McDormand's, I don't know how to look it up later, but Frances McDormand's son in this, he's done several like major side son roles in several like big movies recently. He was this like the main side son in Manchester by the Sea with Casey Affleck. He was the son in this. I've seen him in like several different things, and I can't place his name. He just kind of is there. I think he did a good job. I'll have to look up who that is. This has a 4.0 out of 5 on IMDb. I think that is totally understandable. It was actually really good. If you're curious more about our thoughts, obviously, we'll be posting an entire episode on the Movie Bros about this movie, along with the Meg and along with Treasure Planet. But all I said on Letterboxd, at least to give you a little tease, is this was an unknown Peter Dinklage movie. Nice. And that's as little as I could possibly say without really wanting to delve into the whole movie, because there is a lot to talk about, I feel like, both about the content, but actually about how the movie looks and feels and is made. So I would say definitely tune in to when we post that episode. From there, if you didn't feel like we were watching a serious enough movie yet, we finally got around to sitting down and watching 1917, the movie that came out in 2019. If you don't know what this is, man, I don't want to say it's a masterpiece, but it's almost a perfect movie. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It's got a 4.1 out of 5, which out of like hundreds and hundreds of reviews, or actually it's been seen 1.8 million times. It's got 213,000 ratings on it. It's like people have seen this. That's a very good statistic. It's a lot of one continuous shot. Beautiful cinematography. The music is really good. The acting is compelling. The story moves along there. Again, it's basically go, go, go from the start. It's not like racing, but there is a sense of urgency, both with what the plot is, if you don't know. Again, we're going to do a whole episode on this, so obviously just listen to that. But it's during the First World War, and it feels real. And I would put it in the same like contention as something like Saving Private Ryan or as Dunkirk. They're all very different, but I would still lump them together as like the quality. I think I don't know if I have a preference on it. That might be a whole other discussion. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm glad I finally saw it. I definitely thought watching it, oh man, if I saw this in the theaters, big screen, really good sound. Oof. The last like 20 minutes, if you've seen it, you know the scene that I'm talking about. The scene that where you see the stills from this movie are usually from. I bet that was freaking awesome to see and like experience in the theater. So if this is something that ever does come back to a movie theater, I will go see it. I will definitely go see it. On Letterboxd, I said, why didn't they just send a text or a FaceTime to them. Ugh. If you know, you know, folks, what the mission is that they have to accomplish in the movie. And that just goes to show how different things have become in the last, 100 years. How different wartime has become. Obviously, if you watch something like The Hurt Locker or Jarhead or Black Hawk Down, that kind of thing is a little more relevant. But either way, highly recommend it. And that's what I watched this week, folks. I know that was more than the week before, less than maybe some other week to come. Who knows? Four out of the 7 or so, all was on one day. And we're going to spread out posting those episodes, like I said, over the next several weeks. So I would say be sure to tune in for those. Obviously, these are just my own opinions. You can think of what you want. You can say what you want. You can recommend what you want. You can hate or love what you want. You're all free humans to do what you like. If you liked this and you want to hear more, well, obviously check out the previous episodes. There is the like and follow and bell notification and give a 5-star review, all the different things you can do to help both this podcast, which I feel like this one is more of a companion podcast to the other one I do with my brother. This is, of course, Junk's Movie Corner Pod. And with that, good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is time you are hearing this. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with me.